Like you have folks in there charging $1,500 to get an LLC. You have people out there setting up folk for scamming. And I told my homeboys, I said, look, let me tell you something. Joe Biden coming for you. Now, if you did that under
might
Trump,
not be today.
he
it
coming.
might not be tomorrow.
He gonna shuffle to your tax returns. He gonna shuffle. You think he's sleek, but he gonna wake up for them taxes. And what they doing right now.
That's what they doing right now.
Woke up to them taxes. But we cannot keep up as a nonprofit with like 15,000 followers all together across the ecosystem.
Between May 2020 and December 2021, I have secured $8,121,009.35 in legitimate funding for Black and minority-owned businesses. My name is Talibah Bayles, and I'm the host of the Black and Bankable podcast. Effective immediately, I am coming for more for the community.
Hey, y'all. Oh, we got another episode of the Black and Bankable podcast. And if you have checked out any of the shows previously, you know that this one is different. And not just because of the setting, but because I'm in person with two young kings here. Now, my prior guests really have all been Black women. We mixed it up a little bit in there. But today, I am live at Polaris here in Birmingham, Alabama, Woodlawn specifically. And I am interviewing AJ Stevens, representing Sabre Finance, and just a small business person out here in these streets working with small business owners in general. And Elijah E. Davis, who is just also a small business pioneer. He's everywhere here in Birmingham when it has to do with small business. So we are going to jump right into what it means to be Black and bankable. So I have already, we done had a whiteboard session for real.
Straight up.
We know, we know each other personally, professionally. We just always talking about this stuff. And so it just only made sense that we make this official and do an actual podcast. So we're going to pull out a couple of points from our whiteboard session and drop some gems for you today. So as I said, this particular episode is going to be unique because I have a financial institution represented. And then I have, like I said, an activist represented, someone who has, really both of y'all, have been on the front lines helping small business owners when it comes to getting their shit in order, financial paperwork. Y'all know how I roll. I want to start with some questions specifically around what you guys have experienced as obstacles. What are the common obstacles from your perspectives that Black businesses currently face when it comes to getting the money, getting access to capital so that they can scale their businesses? Elijah, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be here. Love the work that you do. The first obstacle is that we don't have enough professional services like you, straight up, that understand the culture and are rooted in people's business cycles. But I worked at Urban Impact for 5 years, which is a Main Street or just, mom and pop businesses, legacy Black-owned businesses. And some of the piece is really the legacy of systemic discrimination, right? And how that affects trust. And so, you've got sort of this, psychosocial, emotional element of, you're not going to be able to get this money. I had a legacy business owner tell me, boy, straight up, why you think the bank's going to give me money? But he put all his kids through college, right? So, what am I going to say to him, in the 2010s that he hadn't already gone through in the 70s, 80s, and 90s? But we also have a technical deficit of a lack of professional service providers and a not really, particularly in Birmingham, a robust ecosystem. We have folks, but the ecosystem can't be 20 people. That's not what it is in other mid-sized cities. Straight up.
Right.
So, when you think about 20 people all together, to thousands of Black businesses, statistically, we know the city has at least almost 10,000 Black businesses. Right.
Exactly.
So when you think about 10,000 matched to 20 or 30 or 40
of the same folks. Right.
Of the same folks, like let's be real about what is achievable. And so I think, both the psychosocial and element of the legacy of discrimination and dealing with business owner psyche about, yes, I still can do this right here. And then secondly, just the lack of a large or deep technical capacities with other firms, legal, accounting, operational technology. Makes it very difficult to just be there.
Right, to pinpoint exactly all the things. So I'm walking in a bank after everything Elijah laid out and said to us, I want to drill in because we've had this conversation before on the example of the business in 4th Avenue District. If you don't know, go ahead and Google it. It's a history, very rich, very rich history business district here in Birmingham. And that business owner said, "What, boy, why is this bank? Why do you think this bank is going to give me the money?"
Straight up.
What do you say to that business owner, AJ?
So first, I would like to thank you for having me on your podcast. I feel so special, such an honor. I love, like Elijah said, I love the work you're doing. And this is very much needed information for the small business ecosystem. But to answer your question, I would have to analyze everything that he's trying to do first. And to Elijah's point, there aren't as many professional services that's out here that's really trying to help the people that need it the most. And so for me, if going back to my banker days, I'm looking at everything that you have and trying to figure out what your plan is, what your mission is. And oftentimes I see that there's a lack of structure from the business. They don't have the paperwork. They don't have the financial documents in place. They haven't filed taxes properly. They haven't comprised the year-to-date profit and loss sheets. They don't have a balance statement. They don't have a lot of different things that you would think a business owner would have in place already. And so it kind of goes back to the foundation of things, helping them understand, because you can come to me asking for money and thinking that that's your immediate need, but it's rarely the immediate need that the business owner has. It's usually a lack of structure, a lack of strategy and planning in place. And so I'm going to advise on that end first, because if you don't have the structure in place, if you come to me trying to get money, I can give you the money for today, but that can just be a Band-Aid. And as we all know, over time, Band-Aids, they begin to peel off. And so I don't want to set you up for failure by just giving you something that you think you need. And so it kind of goes into the technical assistant aspect of it, and really just kind of being who I naturally am, somebody who's passionate about sharing financial literacy, because without the foundation and the structure, you can't survive. And so I'm just making sure that they understand that you need to be making sure you keep up with your bookkeeping. Understand what your books is doing every month. Not just waiting till the quarter, every month.
Or tax time.
Reconcile. Making sure that you understand your inflows, your outflows, and how to understand every piece that goes into your business, and having that structure and the systems in place. And so that's my thing. I'm going to make sure that you understand what you should be doing, not just for right now, but going forward and period for your business.
And what I want to pull out, too, that we talked about, and other folks in the space, other bankers or former bankers have said to me that I think we need to share with our with our audience is, if you do not know how much money you need, and you walk into somebody's bank and it's like, and they say, well, okay, we're entertaining you. Well, how much money do you need? And you don't know that answer.
Yeah.
Right. I'm told that that's like secret code for denied. In all seriousness, right?
That's a red flag. A lot of bankers or lenders will completely tune you out after you say you don't know, or if we ask what this money will be used for, if you can't communicate that. And so it kind of goes back to people understanding what you need to have in place and how to communicate things to a lender. Because as a business owner, we're looking at you as a professional. And if we can't trust you, if I'm talking with you and I can't trust you to do things right with your business, and this is something that you believe in, how can I trust you with my money?
Meaning, like, if I don't know how much money I need, then, like, well, what are you here for?
Yeah, how can I properly assist you, because you don't even know what you need. So if you can't tell me a number, if you can't tell me what the use of funds will be used for, then how can I trust that you will be a good steward with these funds? What is your strategy? What's the plan? And most people don't have a plan. But yes, please do not go to a lender and just ask for money and say, whatever you can give me, whatever you can bless me with, I'll be happy. And I'm like, this is not how this works. But I'm gonna tell you up front, hey, it's okay that you did this with me because I'm not that harsh. I'm not harsh like that. But please don't do this with anyone else, because everybody else may not be as nice as me and understanding and saying, hey, I need to educate instead of just trying to criticize or look at them as though they should know, because a lot of people really don't know. And so I feel like it's my job to just inform them and tell them, hey, this is how you do it.
So we just unlocked the Black and Bankable Book of Secrets.
Yeah.
Just in the first, 5-10 minutes of the episode, because, I mean, even though I chuckled, a lot of business owners will come in and say, well, whatever you think I qualify for, or whatever, and you think that that's being gracious. But in essence, that's saying, oh, okay, cool. You don't know what you're doing.
Yeah. You don't know.
You don't know what you're doing, and they're automatically tuning you out. And AJ is not the only person in the banking space that has said that. I've heard that repeatedly before, and it sounds like such a basic thing. That's a lot of our, I guess, intuition or whatever comes in, and clarity comes in when you unpeel layers. This is one of them, because it's one that if you're just so busy in your day, you know that your business needs money, and you're just trying to do check off the checklist. Something so basic as know why you need the money and how much you need, you kind of skip over.
Yeah, you would think that's just common sense. It's just easy to do, but it's not.
And as soon as you do that, all the rest of those pages that you have in that business plan become a moot point, because you haven't rolled it up into this business plan is going to require $50,000 from your bank.
Well, and I think that goes back to and I'm always taking a community perspective. Part of the root causes of not having good cost estimation is lack of professional services.
Absolutely.
Right. So how much does it cost to build out a retail space, right? Where you usually at the baseline need to have a certified contractor, right? That is a challenge, right? And let's not even talk about architects or we're sitting in a beautifully designed space of, interior design. That's, very rare, particularly in the city of Birmingham. And then also when you think through, standards for your industry, what is the purpose of the capital? Like all capital is supposed to make you more money.
Exactly.
And
not put out a fire.
Right. It's supposed to make you more money.
Another red flag.
Well, and Elijah, I'm going to bounce it back out to you, but what hit me, and I say it all the time in the webinars and sessions that I do with small business owners, is whenever you're asking for money, so we've told you, number one, you need to know how much to ask for. But what I also say is, and you need to have a strategy to get out of the money when you're going into it, though. Meaning, if I am asking you for $50,000, I've already sat down and strategized to the cent, not only how I'm going to spend it, but how I'm going to make $100,000.
Right.
So you need to know how to get out of the money as soon as you in it. That's the way I'm phrasing it.
And a lot of reasons why you see such indecision around what money is needed is because most of our businesses and just small businesses, period, are undercapitalized to begin with. And so they are trying to fill gaps that they began with, right? Instead of thinking about capital just as a tool, as just like if you think about, I'm going to get a machine, right, to make more biscuits or whatever. The loan is the same way. But we don't come from it from that perspective because we're usually undercapitalized. And I think what I would like for more of us in the development ecosystem to impress people is to stop people before they start undercapitalized. Because see, around this whole entrepreneurship conversation, we're saying, oh, start businesses, do this, do that. But we're never talking about, start when you have this, right? And you can still work on your business and pre-revenue and still work to your concept. But this is what it takes to be capitalized.
What I also want to drill into is the I'm going to get it how I live concept, because I think that is a direct reflection of possibly why we're undercapitalized, and also why that solid number is not in our head, because just, I guess, it's magical in our DNA that we're like, I'm gonna make it happen.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, what is this? What today brings me? Bet I'm gonna make the best of today.
Right.
If this is what I have to deal with when the obstacle comes, I'm going to address it. And that passion and that get it how you live syndrome, I mean, it like you say, it feeds families.
Right. And
right. But that's not a tangible thing.
Right. Well, but I'm so glad you brought that up, because when we're talking about Black businesses, we're talking about Black people.
Exactly.
And that's so important.
Yeah.
We understand the stats around sole proprietorships and Black businesses. I think it's important to think through, okay, well, what are the things, how do we approach ourselves culturally?
Exactly.
Right. And we never add the cultural aspect
Absolutely.
to community, economic, and business development.
Absolutely.
And so what you're saying is on point, is get it how I live, because we've been working from a sort of a schema of being undercapitalized, working from survival.
And making it work anyway.
And so we don't, and making it work anyway. And so the other piece I wanted to just, back up, fully, is that we're having new conversations, right, that our grandparents never could have, and that some of our parents could have. So what I mean by that is, if you think about the civil rights movement and all of the policy and legislation that on the books, like, redlining happened on the books in the 40s, 50s, and was practiced all through 70s, 80s, even like 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we have a bank.
Yeah.
We have a bank in town that was sued for redlining in 2015 and lost. I mean, and they were found guilty.
Okay.
In 2015.
In 2015, yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that we're having conversations around access to institutions that, as the grandchildren of the civil rights movement, that these are new conversations. And so that's the sort of long view that I take around. I'm not going to beat us up so much as to say we have never had access to institutions. So how do we maximize and work with these institutions that are actually new in access to us? Bank of America put down a commercial loan program, a special purpose credit program last month. That would have not happened 30 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Like, people forget the CDFI legislation has been out for 30 years.
Yeah.
We're talking about literally one generation. Right. And so I think it's important to think through, well, let's just take a step back and define the institutions, right? Let's, like, what is a bank? What is a nonprofit? Like, what is business, right? Because we have never had the opportunity to define these institutions. And, there are social theories that talk about, like, we had these institutions unto ourselves before integration, right? So, like, we've been, like, disrupted. So, to your point, that cultural of, like, our cultural mentality is our business mentality. And we've got to address that if we want to get better.
To piggyback off his first point, that was very well said. The thing that I hear is the way you handle your personal finances is the way you operate in business.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't manage your personal finances properly, if you have bad credit, if you're making terrible decisions, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, you're going to have that same mentality when you go into your business.
Exactly.
And so it's hard for people to kind of get out of that cycle. You don't just jump into business one day and you are just making terrible decisions with your credit and with your personal finances on yesterday. The switch doesn't come on like that, because culturally, we don't have conversations around things like, okay, this is how you should be operating and moving when you start a business. And before you start a business, you need to make sure you have these things in place. Understand your startup costs, understand your recurring costs, understand everything it's going to take to get this business off the ground. Not just saying, I believe in myself. I have faith, and I'm going to do it. No.
Well, and I think it's been like to mix in both what both of you guys are saying is, we're trying to continuously break a cycle that keeps going. It's not stopping. Like, it's a circle that keeps going, particularly around you're going to get a no.
Right.
So it just depends on your circle that's around you. It's like if you're used to a lot of no's, no, then culturally you may be, or geographically, financially, you may be in a circle of people who are like, they just gonna deny you anyway. Get it how you live. Right. It don't matter. And just go cash to cash, blah, blah, blah. That's how we're gonna do it. I'll even, to quantify it, my dad told me, because my dad, born and raised in Birmingham, it's a whole slew of Bayles in Birmingham.
Shout out across the street.
That's right.
Greatest soul food
That's
place
right.
in the
That's
world.
right. Including Bayles Catering right next.
Okay, small business plug. Okay. Okay.
Woodlawn, First Avenue. I'm just joking. But anyway, but it's a slew of Bayles in Birmingham, and my grandfather. Okay, he had a concrete business when you had a black business. My grandfather passed down his black-owned concrete business to my uncle, right? So my dad, okay, one day, he has accounts in his bank probably not even around, but it's a bank here in Birmingham, okay? And he wanted to get a truck for his dad's business, for his dad. Right? He wanted to actually finance this truck. Had an account with this bank. He goes into the bank, okay? And he's like, I want to finance a truck for my dad, okay? He's like, I need the application. Well, first of all, everybody in there doesn't look like him, but that's neither here nor there. He goes to one particular man and is asking for the application, and it's like he's having to beg this man for the application. The man's like, well, you have enough in your account to actually purchase the truck. My dad's like, yeah, I know. I want to finance. I want to get a loan for this truck. So he finally gets the application, fills out the application, and he's, all right. The guy's like, okay, we'll get back to you. My dad's walking towards the door, and something told him to look back. And he sees this man throwing his application in the trash.
Wow. Yeah. But that's real. Yeah.
Okay. And so my dad, okay, he gathers himself, goes to his car. He's like, all right, let me, how we have to he gathered himself, and he was like, no, I'm gonna go back in here. So he goes back in, and this time he skips right over this guy and goes to a woman who appears to be a manager. And it's like, I want to apply for financing. Okay. And so this lady's like, oh, okay, sure. Let me set you up with this same guy. So they both walk over to this guy's desk. And so, of course, the guy's looking nervous because at this point he knows he's about to be exposed. And so my dad's like, well, my application is right there in the trash. And so they're red-faced, right? And so, of course, my dad is like, and matter of fact, I just want my money out of the bank. Good. Now, here's the point.
Yeah.
My dad
told that story to you.
Told that story to me.
You told it in such detail. I know.
Oh, absolutely. Everybody know my dad. Don't hear a storyteller. Hey, I'm going. Know it's good, right? So he could have told me that story at a time where I was getting ready to start my business, and could have said, therefore, you know what? We don't need any money from banks.
Right.
That would have been spoken into my DNA, and I would have been, get it how you live. We don't trust banks.
Right.
But that was not the story. The story was still he took his money and went to another bank and then still got the truck for his father. But the bottom line is that's what I hear when we talk about culture. Like, we are black people and then we're black business owners. Right. Your circle directly influences how you approach everything.
Right.
And so, therefore, when you're trying to get in this thing and beat the streets and help black business owners become bankable and understand what it is to run a successful business, you have to understand that those are the type of stories.
Right. Visited.
That people grew up hearing.
That people grew, especially in the South, that people grew up hearing And seeing, and that's why I said, so the get it how you live culture is one in which, it's a good and a bad. But that's what we're breaking through. We're trying to break through that. Because when you're used to getting a nose, and you're seeing stuff like that, you got systematic. Then let's talk about our own selves.
We talk to each other.
Right, exactly. Right.
We talk to each other rough.
Yeah.
Why is this information top secret?
Right.
That's why we have this. This is not top secret information.
It is not. And that's why, we're in such an interesting time. What a time to be alive. I don't endorse the actual artist and his shenanigans, but he made some great mixtapes and CDs. But because we're finally being able to quantify the discrimination, right? Like you talked about the loan denials. I mean, there was a report in 2019 that came out that showed in the present day, in certain markets, Black people who are similarly as creditworthy get a 50% callback rate. This is happening today. But at the same time, as Gen X and Millennial and Gen Z, we have the most education and the most access to institutions that Black folks have ever had.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So we're progressing, and we're also finally seeing the quantification of what our grandmama's parents and peers have been telling us the whole time.
And we're pulling the sheets off.
Right.
We're like,
it's a crazy time to be alive, but I think that we have to keep pushing forward, right, and making the institutions work for ourselves. Like, that's the next step. It's like, because you did that to my grandfather, father, and my cousin, right? Because let's also talk about class too.
Yeah.
Right. Because the other issue is, those of us who have had the privilege to be educated and now get deemed to be a certain class, right? We now have a different relationship to institutions.
Yeah, that's true.
But if my homeboy who has, everything set up but cannot articulate,
or we're gatekeepers. Let's talk about gatekeepers.
I think the call to action here, I know we're talking about entrepreneurs and the systems, but I think the call to action for us as a people is for us to be in these roles where we make these decisions.
That's right.
So
and not DE&I roles. I'm talking about, like, I need you lending
on
money.
the front lines, right?
I need
being a lender,
loan officer.
VP,
Amen.
Absolutely. being a VP, being the top head, the branch manager, the person that makes decisions, because only at that level can you inflict change. Can you be a part of the change that you're trying to see? And so I think it's important for us to, kind of stress that if we want change, we have to get into these systems and get into leadership positions so that we can be the ones who make this.
And no shade on DE&I roles, but that's a trap that gets under-resourced, right? So, I mean, hopefully they can do systemic change within the organization.
Well,
but we need loan officers, right?
Well,
people that are above the loan officers, so they can get pushed through.
But let me say this, because this is my business model: TNB Tax and Financial Services and access granted. I don't care if it's one today and one tomorrow. Right? Like, so if I'm going to a bank and it's not a branch officer that's Black, bet it's still federal guidelines.
Correct. Yeah.
That this bank has to follow.
Right.
And so therefore, if it's one business owner today that gets approved and one tomorrow and one, then it's one by one. Because, I don't have time to wait for a Black branch manager.
Yeah, especially if they.
I'm just saying, like, this is what I'm saying. Like, that's what this podcast is about. Well, by the time you sit and wait for a Black branch manager and he have to cut through all this red tape or whatever, your business good and closed. So let's go ahead and talk about right now, what are some things that we can do?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, like, what is the matching of capital and the industry? I think is, like, just another issue. It's like we get upset because we don't really understand the systems because it has been hidden, and then those of us know about it don't talk about it. So like, if you're a restaurant, you shouldn't go to a bank. I can say that. Banks are there to make money. They are not community development finance. They have a bias against micro enterprises, right, or micro businesses, or really specifically, if your revenues are under $100,000 a year, there is a bias against you, right? And the bias is more like a profit motive than it is maybe anything else.
And so they go where?
Right. Exactly. And so, they could go to a CDFI, but many CDFIs have high interest rates, and they are horrible because they have high interest rates. And I am so glad to be free on this side of everything. Yeah. But I will say that it's important to think about your industry, the type, what you're using the capital for, right? And then who provides that capital. One thing learning, working in consulting even before the nonprofit sector is that folks get financed all types of ways.
This is true.
Flexible,
This is true.
you know what I'm saying?
This
Flexible ways, and ways that are not even as predatory as you would think. So,
absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So do trucks, equipment finance.
Asset financing.
The more niche you get in your industry, there's a financial path for it.
It is. It is.
And I think it's important to think through, okay, how does my industry get financed, right? Because when you think about a term loan, let's just do the math. Okay. Like if it's $500 a month, taking all of the social and political factors out, if I'm just underwriting it and you have like big seasonality in your business, I don't know if you're going to make that note $500 a month, which is a small number, but I'm just saying $500 a month through these months. But I know you might make it back, but I don't want to deal with the delinquency or I don't want to deal with a partial payment, right? But you might be able to go to a CDFI, right, who has a specific product that is patient, that works with the seasonality of that business. Or you might be able to go to a small-time equity investor or partner, right? Like I think thinking about what are the products that the bank is, like the term loan is not always the answer. Right. So I think it's really thinking about the industry. If you're a restaurant, what type of small business, and then match that capital provider after you figure out what it is you want.
The biggest thing is that most people don't know about the resources that's available for them.
Absolutely.
And so that's a problem.
Because they're so used to hearing the no's.
That's a problem in itself, because a lot of us who, I represent a CDFI, and a lot of institutions just aren't out in the streets, going to the people. We're in our spaces. We're up here. We're having ecosystem meetings, and we're talking with other service providers, and we're all up here. But the people on the ground who need the information, they don't know. So it takes an approach of going beyond the call of duty and saying, hey, we're going to get out here into the community. What is a community? Not being just at the chambers, no slight to them, but it takes going into the churches, going into the barbershops, going into the beauty salons, going into the markets, wherever the black people are, wherever the people who need the rec centers, wherever the people gather, that's where we need to be targeting our efforts. And that's
share the
rarely
information.
the case.
Because in a history of no's, we cannot assume that this person even knows that there's value to being an LLC versus a sole proprietor or an S Corp or a C Corp. We can't make any assumptions. And then even in not making assumptions, we definitely can't be gatekeepers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no, we can't. And I think we have to like reset, like instead of having regulatory language on our people, like you not doing this and you not sufficient. It just literally state what it is. Like, like looking at, would you give your cousin $20, right? And they ain't paid you back since 1992. But it's just matching, tax
being
returns.
relatable.
Yeah, tax returns is just, proof of income, debt services, this. Right. And taking we cannot be what we are all fighting against, hopefully, right?
Exactly.
And I think that's a key piece. But going back to like the education piece where you're talking about, AJ, my other solution, to whomever will listen is like we need real education ecosystem builders in the street. So I would love for somebody to put up some money so we can pay AJ to do one thing and go through every Black business Facebook group, all 25 of them that I documented, and correct misinformation. Because when PPP broke out, Lord, I was in full-blown sackcloth, ashes, and mourning on the floor.
You know what?
With the little shawl and everything. The prayer shawl with the shafar and all types of appropriations of Jewish culture. Because you had you had like the craziness of those groups. Like you had folks in there charging $1,500 to get an LLC. you had people out there setting up folk for scamming. And I told my homeboys, I said, look, let me tell you something. Joe Biden coming for you. Now, if you did that under
Might
Trump,
not be today.
he
It
coming.
might not be tomorrow.
He gonna shuffle to your tax returns. He gonna shuffle. You think he's sleek, but he gonna wake up for them taxes. And what they doing right now.
That's what they doing right now.
Woke up to them taxes. But we cannot keep up as a nonprofit with like 15,000 followers all together across the ecosystem.
But see, this is that you know but this is the thing. But this is the thing, because see,
now you done got me up out.
He's sweating everything.
And the podcast has started.
Right, now the podcast.
I mean, so let's talk about that.
Right, yeah.
Because, this is what I really, really believe is the foundation of the scamming and this, that, and the other. It's like we looking for an easy way out. Yeah. Now, let me tell you something.
We are.
I'm not even trying to judge you, because, see, sometimes I don't wake up at 100. My battery is not at 100% every day, and I want to get something done.
Right.
And so, therefore, I'm like, well, what can I get done with this 20% battery? And you got some people that's coming into the day like, how can I make this easier to do? And I understand it. But the common theme that you might have heard so far is that you still got to come to the table with something. Absolutely. But what has happened is, because I don't wake up at 100% every day, and I wake up at 20%, and I'm still trying to make it throughout my day, I'm going to pull up my phone, and whoever's the shiniest and captures my attention, bet I'm going with them. Right. And if that person is on... I'm gonna try not to cuss. Yeah. And if that person is on some bullshit,
correct. Yeah, that's what it is, though.
And happen to catch me on a 20% day, right? Then you know what? I'm gonna listen to you.
Correct.
So what we're talking about is we're battling against subject matter experts, right, and marketing gurus who know how to make themselves shiny and get about 2 paragraphs of information, right, and make a whole podcast channel and everything else. And because people are tired, right, and want this money, predatory, and starting on 20% every day, but they need to run their business and feed their family, that's where they going.
Right. And this
go ahead. I mean, but that's what's happened. And so everybody trying to eat. So the people who have become the glitteriest and shiniest and the Range Rovers and all the rest of that stuff, they're trying to eat too. But it's just a whole, it's capitalism.
Right. It is.
And so what you have to do is you have to try on those days that you just have the 20%, try to remove that emotion and that dire need and sit down with someone who can strategize your way out of it. Because if you don't, you're going to go for that temporary fix that's going to have you right now like, damn, I done got that PPP loan all fraudulently, and now you looking crazy.
The thing is, if it seems easy, right, you probably shouldn't be doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't be,
because doing business is not easy.
You got to put in some work.
You have to put in sweat equity. You have
every
to
day
invest constantly. Right. You have to consistently do a thing, and it's not
every
just,
day.
And it's not just waking up and saying, "Oh, I can pay $500 for this class, and they're gonna give me this." Right. That's rarely the case.
Because you still got to, and that's
you
the
have
thing
to do
too.
it yourself too.
You pay for the $500 class, you still got to show up every day.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And so, I mean, so the thing of it is, it's just that like you're gonna have to put in some work. Period. Point blank. Yeah. You have got to put it. Well, we're to be black and bankable. This is not no get rich schemes over here. Make $10,000 in 10 days. It's just not going to happen over here. You have got to align yourself with folks like us. If you ain't in Birmingham, you know, but hey, we nationwide around here. But anyway, and then you got to know that, okay, it's time for me to roll up my sleeves because I'm going to have to put in some work.
Right.
We've talked about systematic barriers. They're going to be there. Okay. This is it. That's the way it is. They'd have been there before us. They're going to be there after us. But what we have to do is learn that whole get it how you live piece. Just remix that into strategy.
Yeah. Right. And planning.
Build upon that passion and that I'm going to eat regardless, and add some strategy, sprinkle some strategy in there, because People are getting Black and Bankable every day. People are getting approved for loans every day. But it is absolute. And so make no mistake, we ain't talking about nobody getting approved over here. I mean, numbers, we want to talk about numbers alone that AJ has gotten business owners in at Sabre Finance for this quarter. People are getting approved.
Yeah, and the thing is, as a business owner, there are a lot of requirements that you must meet to receive funding from most institutions, right? Mm-hmm. And with going in, knowing that's the first step, knowing the information that you need to have before you get to them.
That's right.
Because that's a waste of your time and their time.
Absolutely.
They're not gonna. Some people may treat you this way, or they may not. But the thing is, you need to know what you need to come to the table with. And so, if they say you need to have a 650 and you need to have your profit and loss sheet, and you need to have your balance sheet, and you need to have your 2 years of tax returns,
and that's what you got.
6 months of your business bank statements, and you don't come with that, then that is a problem. But the other thing is, if you come and you have these documents in place, and let's say your credit score isn't 650, let's say you're about a 620, but you have sufficient cash flow, we can see that you have a business plan that's outlining what your business is planning to do, what it's doing, and what you will do with these funds. You can communicate these things, and it's like, okay, what you're trying to do with this business is going to bring you in a 20-30% increase. Okay, now we talking.
Right.
Because just because your credit score is 620, you have all these other factors in place, and it's like, okay, we understand that
we're going to give you a chance.
You're not just in business, but you're doing business properly.
Right. That's right.
And it's easier to get things done when you have a lot of other things in place. If your credit score, let's say you had a 620 or 610, if you're at that space and we're looking at your credit report and it's like, okay, we noticed that you had to run up your credit card because some things happened during COVID. We're not gonna fault you for that, because that's just we understand the credit report, not just the credit score. And some institutions won't look at the credit report; they'll just look at that score and base you off of that. But that's not what I do.
Okay.
And so some institutions out here will look at the full scope of things and not just, oh, you don't meet this requirement, you don't have 100,000, you don't have 650, and just toss you aside. Because although requirements may be 630, 650 to receive loans with the institution that I'm at, I was able to help someone who had a score that was a little bit less than that simply because he had the documents in place.
Okay.
He was a business owner that was prepared. And he could speak to what he was trying to do, what the funds would do. And so I say to you in the audience is watching this, just because you don't have everything, if you're doing business properly and you're falling into some hard times, you can still receive assistance when you're able to.
Because the world is in hard times. You know what I'm saying? So it's still human beings, but you have to give these folks something to work with. Basically,
you have to help me help you.
If you were to go to a restaurant and have not been prepared, for the menu, right, to pay, you're going to be caught short, as the folks say. You on a date and you paying for something and you didn't know that the entree started at 40 and market price. Hey, if you don't know what market price is, you're going to be rolling them sleeves up like this. You ready to hit them dishes.
Don't select it.
But I do think that, just from, the action item for people who say they want to support small business is that we've got to be more proactive and more technical. I think I'm sort of tired of the circular conversations around what people, like if this approach of people finding us hadn't worked for 25 years.
Right. We got to do something else.
Then we've got to do something else. And so I think if we understand the gap in terms of just understanding in institutions, then I love what, AJ is doing and what you're doing around and really sort of, doing this like just from a perspective, like yes, it helps, business model, but I mean, it's education.
Absolutely.
Right? Like, because we really actually, it's just an education thing.
It's an information gap. I mean, that's where
but we got to be proactive.
You got to be proactive. And then, because the proactive addresses the no. Because if you don't have the 620, the 650, the 800, whatever, go ahead and get the no. That's what I say. Go ahead and get the no so that now you have that roadmap.
Right.
It's like, oh, well, so my problem wasn't that I didn't have a profit and loss. It was that I didn't have a 650. Yeah. Go work on the 650. And the thing of it is, too, I want to talk about what you just said. to me, in my mind, having worked for the federal government for 15 years before going 100% small business owner, I'd have been in the D.C. metro area and been in the trenches on the federal government side when it comes to data and research. And I'm here to and the national security industry, top secret, so forth and so on. And I'm here to tell you that the things that we are talking about when it comes to getting your Black business successful, your small business, whoever listening to this, your business successful, we're not talking about top secret information. We're not talking about information that's not regulated, that has rules. So what we're trying to do with this episode, and hopefully that you get with checking out all of the prior episodes, is we're trying to unlock this information. I know that it's something that we've said in this time so far that has been like, damn, I didn't know that. It has to be, because that in most cases, a lot of the stuff is I didn't know. And then once that light bulb goes off in a bit, I know y'all have seen it in a business owner's eye, like you're like, oh, I said something they didn't know. And then they're like, bing, because guess what? They are the baker. They are, the chef. They are the construction. They already have the passion. They know what they're doing. But when you unlock the information that you have in you from a banking perspective, and that you have in you from a practitioner with small businesses perspective, and that light bulb goes off,
right,
that business owner is Black and bankable. They just don't know it. All it takes is a couple of months, period. It's, to me, it's just that simple. Unlock the information.
Absolutely.
Give these people the tools. Just talk.
Right.
Because you don't know what they don't know. Just talk and give them those tools.
And it's just that simple.
Period.
Though, speaking as if they don't know. Don't talk over people's head.
Right.
Don't assume that they know everything just because
go
they
where they are. Exactly.
You have to meet people where they are.
Right.
You have to speak on a level that they can understand and be relatable and be interactive with them so that they feel comfortable and establish that trust early on. And don't have them feeling like, okay, so for me, I'm always going to speak professional starting out. But if we're talking and I understand that I can be more casual and laid back and, the way you're speaking to me, I feed off of the energy that I'm in.
That's right.
And so when I'm talking to you, I'm going to make sure that I speak in a language that you can understand, because I don't want you to ever say that I talked to AJ and I didn't understand any of those words.
Right, exactly.
He was huge using all these terms, the DSCR, DTI, LTV. I don't understand what any of those abbreviations mean. You have to speak to people in a way that they can understand it.
Right.
And there's so many people out here that not only speak over people's head, but they aren't willing to share the information. And so that's a problem. And that's a gap that I saw. And I'm just like, okay, any and every way I can get out information, whether it's speaking at any events, whether it's doing my Finance Friday, cutting on the video and just sharing information. If any way I can share information when I'm talking to people, although you may not, I know you're not ready.
Right.
And I know that it looks good for me to be able to put numbers on the board and get this loan approved. And so talking to you is not the most advantageous way to spend my time.
And
but
let's talk about
I'm going to take the time to educate you, because
Right.
I understand that you may not know today, and you may not be loan ready today, but I'm not going to give you a no.
God.
I'm going to give you a no, but
Right.
but I can connect you to these resources.
That's right.
No, but
And that's-
if you go
that's-
back and
That's
do
right.
these
That's
things,
right. Because
we can get you to the
we
next
have
level.
to create a pipeline, and that's what's actually represented right here.
Right. Yeah.
Is a pipeline in which you have the people who are not loan ready, and that's not even, that's the problem. A lot of folks think that's a heavy lift, and it's not.
Right.
But who are not loan ready, right? And then they're sitting here looking at us like, "Oh, girl, what they talking about in that room?" Right? And so here it is. Nobody's talking to them because they're not loan ready.
Right.
You got thousands of people in that hallway talking about, what they talking about. I'm not loan ready, but so we have to get out. That is what we saying, is we have to get out here and talk to these people who are not loan ready. That's what the Black and Bankable thing is all about.
Yeah.
All these billions of dollars that the Biden administration has released and dedicated and appropriated, and at this agency and that agency, the nonprofits got it. It's money out here.
Right.
It's money out here. Okay, but what we got to do is it's not cute or fancy or easy to get these people loan ready. And we need more people, number one, that's going to speak the language of the folks who are not loan ready, and then give them the tools that they need. That's what we're talking about.
And that's my call to action.
That's
to
right.
funders is, number one, we need more standardization of business advising.
Yeah.
We would be probably very. I mean, Talibah already talked about she's been in D.C. and has comes from legacy of business. Out. Like I have deal experience, and I went to multiple school. And certifications. Right. I just don't. I'm just more low key. Right. But at the same token. So the call to action for me is in the age of content creation, right? And in the age of, we understand the need. What funders need to really have is like long capital for organizations and intermediaries to make sure that we're building the pipeline seriously.
That's right.
Because again,
that's right.
You are a for-profit
basically
business
give me
owner.
the money, access granted.
Yeah,
501c3.
Exactly.
I know what you're talking about.
A small business plug.
And so, but think about the clients that, you are able to have as, the clients that you are able to have. I mean, and even the ecosystem. I was the Kiva guy, and we do faith loans, essentially the urban impact loan.
Right.
I mean, but it's work. We got folks, opening up stuff, but it's the resourcing around the things that matter.
Excellent.
And we need standardized business advising so that, because the other issue is that the reason why people don't go and reach out to nonprofits or even some other community places because they realize people don't know what they're talking about. Okay. Let's just, you understand what I'm saying? They've given wrong advice.
Right.
They have not taken it, and so they realize like, I have processed and I can point to people in SBA loans and buildings and you know what I'm saying? That's I need to be more online, but I'm not online, But the challenge is we've got to elevate that standard and have integrity on our end.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is that we do need more resources for proactive outreach.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Because the type of deep work that AJ does and this stuff is got to be funded. Right. Because
we have bills to pay too.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So it's like, know, and if we want to have a multiplier effect and be serious about it, we got to let everybody do it. We got to let AJ put numbers on the board. We got to put Reggie put numbers on the board.
Right.
But they cannot do everything.
Right.
You cannot wade through everything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If folks been, got cash in the pillows, you cannot deal with 50 of those people.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
You can't. Yeah.
And so I think as intermediaries, we've got to stop whatever it is we've been doing for 20 years. And just taking up money and just doing more proactive outreach and raising our standard of business advising.
The thing is, us as resources, we don't play well with each other.
Yeah, that's absolutely.
Most of us don't like each other.
I
just gotta.
No, we gotta start. This is part 2 right here starts.
I had to because
competitive.
That's the elephant in the room. A lot of us resources, we don't play well with each other. We don't like each other.
Oh wow.
We want the credit for whatever is going on. If I'm putting on this workshop, I want everybody to come to me. I'm not gonna partner with Talibah and say we're gonna do this together.
Yeah.
That way we can reach my network, we can reach her network, and anybody else connected to us.
Especially when one nonprofit only got like 2,000 followers. I'm like, ain't nobody in Birmingham rolling.
You have no followers, you have no network, but you want to put this on yourself and you want to be selfish. Like, come on, time out for that.
And we come in the suits.
Time out for that.
Passing out pieces of paper. No.
Yeah.
The thing is, we have to
that doesn't work anymore.
Work together more. We have to work together and play well with each other because the thing is, we can reach more people and have more impact.
Absolutely.
If we partner together for real, not just saying, I have partnership with XYZ and that's just face value. Like, no, we need to be putting in work together. We need to be reaching people together because the more people we reach, the more impact we're able to make and the more results that we get to produce. And the more small businesses that get helped and the more our economy grows. It just goes on and on. But it starts with us as the resources. We want to be at the top. Okay, cool. But we need to be doing things strategic. If you don't want to be the person that's on the front line, going into the streets and sharing the information, fine. But at least if you see Talibah doing something, repost it, share it. You know this information is legit.
You gotta do.
Share it. You see Isaac posting something, share it. You see Elijah doing something, share the information.
That's not going to take food off your plate.
Support each other. If you're not swinging the sword, support somebody who else
because everything doesn't have to be about currency.
Right.
Shoot, I'm collecting heavy points, baby. Look, I need some soul points. Right. You know, everything doesn't have to be a dollar sign. Yeah. So therefore, when it comes to collaboration and when it comes to doing things that's going to have a ripple effect within the community, get yourself out of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Get yourself out of it and share it with these people because they're out here and they want to know. They you know, fell victim a couple of times, and so now they're like, look, okay, so I messed up. So we're doing the call to the altar. I'm Catholic, so I don't even. What is the call when you call?
Altar call.
There you go.
Altar call.
There you go. We finna do an altar call before we wrap up the episode. But the altar
to the
call.
Baptismal or something. Break out the incense.
Whatever it takes, that's what we about to do. But seriously, it is to me. This is I could do this every day, all day. As a matter of fact, I have. That's why I made it my business. You know what I'm saying? That's why I left Department of Justice to be right here out in the streets with my community. Period. And the thing of it is the more and more of us out here that get ourselves out of the way and really put others first and collaborate. Don't be gatekeepers. Share the information. The Black and Bankable concept, you know what I'm saying, is just, I mean, to me, it's just so simple and so easy. And I think this episode in itself has really, really demonstrated that. We have dropped so many different gems. We've touched on so much. I already know the comments gonna be fire. I already know when we start sharing it out in the community, you know, we might have to do a part 2, 3.
Right. Yeah.
Who knows? And I'm all here for it. Because, you know, we're gonna, wherever you are, if that's on the podcast world, now we on the podcast world. Wherever, if that was Instagram, I'm on Instagram. You know what I mean? If that is in a webinar, I'm on. That's one thing I'm sure people see is like, dog sleep, I'm gonna do everything, because that's what I mean. When I say that I want to personally commit to helping my community get access to the tools that are not top secret anyway, and then we are partnering, we are collaborating, we are making things happen, we are getting Black businesses the money that they need to be successful, they're feeding their families, the communities are improving, it's money out here. That's it, boom, we done. Seriously. Yeah. To me, it's just that simple. We ain't talking about something that's like moving the whole mountain.
Because we're able, a lot of people just aren't willing.
That's right.
And so that's the thing.
Yeah.
We're all able to go the extra mile and to really provide that support and the resources and the information, but we have to be willing to do those things. And so for those of you who are at the top, I'm always going to push the resources, because it's so important for us to share the information and make sure that people are getting what they need.
Yes.
And if you have the capacity, if you have the money, and you're not doing the programming, partner with somebody that you see is.
That's right.
Work together.
Give me a call.
Work together. If you constantly see Talibah on the internet or
because I ain't going nowhere
doing things, reach out to her and say, hey, I love what you're doing. We're trying to do this. Let's work together, see how we can make impact. That's what it's all about.
Right.
If you're in this space and it's about a check for you, you need to go into another industry.
Correct.
Because in this industry, if you're in economic development, finance, small business advocacy, small community development, any of these sectors that's supposed to be making impact on the people who really need it the most, the underserved, the under-resourced, the underprivileged.
That's right.
You need to get out the way, because it's not about a check for most of us. A lot of us really out here, and it's so congested with people who just in here for the check that it's keeping the people who really trying to make and break forth change, you know, it's holding them back. So we can't get into, a lot of people can't get into these leadership positions because here you are at the top holding up space and doing, you know, these antiquated
hey man, look, let's lead the people with.
I had to. I'm sorry.
I feel
come on now. Exactly.
It's time out for it. We gotta move forward.
Yeah. So, all right, y'all. I really hate to end this episode because I'm on fire. AJ and Elijah, they always on fire. You know what I mean?
I'm a quiet always, fire.
That's right.
I'm gonna talk. You gonna hear my voice?
Well, I think they figured that one out, AJ. I don't. But I have had fun today. I really appreciate both of you all joining me today. Major thanks to Don G Media.
Straight up,
right? For
Don G Media.
For making the first of all, she does all my video work that you see. Her team is excellent, and also for Polaris, which is where we are right now. This beautiful building. I don't know. She might have me. We might do another couple of episodes here. I really like this setup, and I thank you for tuning in. I hope y'all share it with your networks, because one thing that you must know is that we'll never stop. Not going nowhere.
Can't stop, won't stop.
We're not going nowhere. We're not going nowhere. So thank you again. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. What they say on the pod, y'all know what to do. And we'll see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.